Right, we start with oral questions. The Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, Richard Foord.
Number one, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a Happy New Year to you and to colleagues across the House. I've temporarily lost the hearing in one of my ears, so if I'm shouting or I don't hear every detail of the questions, I apologise in advance. Mr. Speaker, this government is determined to strengthen our energy security by moving away from volatile fossil fuels and delivering a clean power system. We've switched off the last coal power station in the UK and have consented enough clean power to power the equivalent of 7.5 million homes. That is how we will tackle the climate crisis, strengthen our energy security and create good jobs across the country.
The International Renewable Energy Agency reports that in 2024, China installed 5 times more renewable power than Europe and 8 times more renewable power than the United States. And in the same year, for the UK, more than 2/3 of our liquid natural gas came from the United States. So in the difficult geopolitical situation that we find ourselves in, how is the government making the UK more self-sufficient for our energy supply?
Well, it's a hugely important question. In an increasingly uncertain world, our energy security becomes more and more important, and that's why we're determined not only that we build a clean power system to tackle the most existential crisis the planet faces in the climate crisis, but also so that this is homegrown power here in the UK that we control. That's hugely important. So every step that we're taking to invest in renewable energy, to invest in a new generation of nuclear, helps us to do that. But it's also, of course, the economic opportunity of the century, which delivers our energy security and jobs at the same time.
Chair of the Select Committee, Bill Esterson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Happy New Year. And I hope that the Minister, in his New Year's resolutions, will commit to building the case for the energy transition through the lower consumer bills, the secure jobs, the public health improvement through reduced emissions, and indeed through energy security. But does he agree that those who oppose climate action are denying our children and grandchildren a future? And will he endeavour to make the case also to fight against the misinformation, the disinformation, the outright myths peddled by some of those opposite?
Well, typically my honourable friend is right on these points, and yes, it is one of my New Year's resolutions, and I suspect my ministerial colleagues as well, for us to redouble our efforts to make the case for this. And indeed, just this morning, I was reading about yet another study that shows that we underestimate the level of support in the general public for climate action. And we have to remember that while there's a lot of noise around this at the moment, the reality is the public back action on the climate, and it is the right thing to do, not just for future generations, as my honourable friend rightly says, but actually for our energy security and for good jobs as well.
Dave Doogan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Refined hydrocarbon fuels are excluded from the government's carbon border adjustment mechanism, meaning that while UK refineries face energy ETS costs of £50 per tonne, overseas producers of fuels do not. This is clearly incomprehensibly damaging in economic terms and is self-evidently counterproductive in climate goals. And in terms of energy security, it's pure madness. Refining at Grangemouth and Prax Lindsay are 2 early casualties of Labour's failure to understand basic economics. So will the government now act to protect the 4 remaining refineries on GB, or will Labour continue with their policy of deindustrialisation dressed up as decarbonisation?
Minister.
Well, I say a happy new year to the honourable gentleman and his sunny disposition back in this House again. First of all, let me say that we committed in the budget to looking at the CBAM inclusion, and we're working to make that happen. Second of all, of course, I've been working with all the refineries to make sure that they are as sustainable as possible. And thirdly, I think he has an absolute cheek to come here and talk about deindustrialisation when his party has failed to have an industrial strategy in Scotland for the 18 years they've been in power, and they published just before Christmas the flimsiest of flimsy plans for energy security in Scotland, which was mostly made up by pictures and not by any detail. They have absolutely no credibility on these issues whatsoever.
Chair of the Environmental Audit, Toby Perkins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. There are many corporate customers who are keen to decarbonise but find that grid connection forecasts of 5 and more years stand in their way. So can the Minister tell us what he's doing to speed up business connections to the grid, and also what he's doing to make sure we prioritise those business customers who are going to make biggest difference in decarbonising?
Minister.
My honourable friend raises a hugely important point, and the future of the grid is going to be absolutely critical to not only how we get clean power to homes and businesses across the country to bring down bills, but actually how we deliver the economic growth the country needs as well. That's why we've taken two key actions. First of all, to build the grid that we need for the future, opposed by some of those opposite us. That future grid is critical for us to build. But secondly, also clearing out the connections queue so that there is space in the connections queue for more projects like the ones that he mentions to join. Both of these actions are absolutely critical, and those who oppose the building of new grid infrastructure oppose the exact economic opportunities my honourable friend just mentioned.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Minister explain why the Government has rejected a higher bid for the Lindsey oil refinery that would have kept jobs open, kept the refinery open, attracted more investment, in favour of a lower bid that is destroying jobs, mothballing the refinery, and is against the growth interest that the Government professes? And could he confirm whether or not the taxpayer is retaining the decommissioning liabilities of the oil refinery?
Minister.
Well, firstly, on a positive note in the new year, I think the honourable gentleman had some good news over Christmas, and I congratulate him on that. But he's quite wrong on his actual question. And look, first of all, I should set out, as I did in my oral statement on the Lindsey oil refinery, that this was an insolvency process, and therefore for the official receiver to conclude the sales process. They have done that. They have taken the highest bid that was on the table, and now P66 will take forward in a sustainable way the future of that site, and I'll continue to work with them on that question. On the question about decommissioning liabilities, no, the Government does not retain those decommissioning liabilities. They were part of the deal, and P66 will take those along with the site.
Dr. Jeevun Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year. We're facing an affordability crisis in this country, indeed across high-income nations, because of our dependence on fossil fuels. That's why energy prices here rose by 40% since 2021. It's what our constituents feel. It's damaging our country, but more importantly, it's also damaging the faith that people across this nation have in our democracy to deliver for them. So can the Minister set out how our transition to fossil fuels will help to resolve the affordability crisis and indeed restore faith in this place?
Minister.
Well, it's an important question on two fronts. He rightly mentions that the transition away from fossil fuels is hugely important for our energy security and for future generations. And we in this place, I think, have a huge responsibility to safeguard the future of our planet for those generations still to come. But the second point he makes is that we also rightly need to make the case for why this is important now. It's the way we get off the volatility of fossil fuel prices that so many of our constituents are still paying the price for, and it's also the way that we industrialise communities right across the country. So the tens of thousands of jobs that have been created through the renewables that are already in place, but the hundreds of thousands of jobs that we want to see by building much more of this infrastructure in the UK is how we get an economic advantage as well as the energy security.
Harriet, Shadow Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the feature of the North Sea consultation paper, the Government defined windfall prices as $90 a barrel for oil and 90 pence a therm for gas. Can the Minister tell me the price of oil and gas today?
Minister.
Well, we've been really clear that the Energy Profits Levy comes to an end in 2030. We've put in place what the future of that scheme looks like to give certainty for the long-term future. And of course, the Energy Profits Levy was introduced by her party in government. And so we've been really clear that the Energy Profits Levy will come to an end in 2030 unless the price floor is triggered in the meantime. But her party also have to say, if they are in favour of scrapping it today, where will the billions of pounds that come from that levy come from in order to fund the public services that our constituents rely on?
Harriet Cross.
Mr. Speaker, either the Minister doesn't know the current price or he doesn't want to tell us. Oil today is $62 a barrel and gas 72 pence a therm, up to a third lower than what the Government itself defines as windfall prices. But despite this, they're still punishing our oil and gas industry with massive windfall taxes. And the cost? 1,000 jobs lost every month, production set to halve in the next 4 years, and almost complete dependence on foreign imports of oil and gas by 2030. Mr. Speaker, this Government is going to be responsible for the death of one of our most most important industries. So will the government now end the oil and gas super tax, scrap the mad ban on new licences and finally back the North Sea?
Minister.
Well, I think there are a number of areas there that I would challenge. First of all, the level was set by her party in government, and we haven't changed that. The floor was set by the Conservative Party. Second of all, she talks about thousands of jobs lost every month. I think, look, that is an important study that was done by a university. It is not a reflection of what has actually happened in the last few months. So although I absolutely take seriously modelling like this, I think we do need to base it in the reality of what has actually happened. And every single job that's lost is, of course, hugely distressing for those communities, but she should also talk up the opportunities in the North Sea, because she says that we're talking down the North Sea. In fact, it's her party that repeatedly talks down the opportunities that can happen in the future of the North Sea, in carbon capture and storage, in hydrogen, in decommissioning work in oil and gas, and much, much more. She should talk those up and be ambitious for the future of the North Sea, not talk it down.
Dr. Danny Chambers.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Happy New Year and Happy Epiphany. I and my right honourable friends, the Energy and the Business Secretaries, are committed to slashing energy costs for British businesses. From April, eligible energy-intensive industries will see an uplift in compensation for electricity network charges, with 90% of costs being covered. We're also consulting on a British industrial competitiveness scheme, which includes our plan to exempt over 7,000 businesses from covering the costs of some of the historic renewables levies.
Dr. Danny Chambers.
Mr. Speaker, small and medium-sized businesses are the absolute lifeblood of our economy, and many of them, like the amazing Bar Lento, which is a Spanish cafe in Winchester, I spend a lot of time in it, are actually the sort of beating hearts of our communities as well. Mr. Speaker, small businesses, their average electricity bill is now £240 a month. 92% of these businesses say they're going to increase prices to deal with energy volatility. And unlike households, Mr. Speaker, businesses don't face an energy price cap, and so they are effectively dealing with energy volatility all the time. Does the Minister agree with me that this is failing small businesses? And will he commit to reviewing how we end this wild west of energy regulation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank him for his question. He points to the issue of energy volatility, and hopefully it was clear from my answer that the government is not satisfied with the position as it is. And of course, this energy volatility has been caused historically by our reliance on oil and gas and on petrostates and dictators. Clearly a policy that the opposition wish to return to, and it is this government's clean power policy, clean power mission, that will ensure that we have energy security for the future. And unlike the climate-denying policies of the Conservatives and Reform, which will destroy jobs and investment in this country, we will deliver energy security and green energy for our small and large businesses and domestic consumers.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that many schools have returned this week to cold classrooms, and that's why I'm delighted that Kingsbury School, St Michael's C of A Academy in Bedworth, All Saints Bedworth C of A Academy and Ash Green School have all received funding to install solar panels. Can the Minister outline what support these schools will receive to install the panels and how this will help our schools cut their energy bills?
It's kind of like education. Can you look into business, Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But I think it shows how committed this government is to supporting reducing costs across all of our services, including education and health, with the installation of solar panels. And we saw last year a massive increase in solar installations in the UK, equivalent to enough energy generation to power 2 million homes. So a benefit not only for our domestic consumers and, of course, green energy as well with these solar installations, but also ensuring that by installing solar on rooftops, such as in schools and hospitals, we're taking maximum advantage. Thank you.
Collins.
Mr. Speaker.
Happy New Year, Mr.
Happy
Speaker.
New Year.
And with your permission, I'll answer 3 and 19 together. The 2023 Generation Costs Report, published under the last government, shows the levelised cost of electricity to build and operate a new gas-fired power station to be significantly higher than the cost of onshore wind, solar and offshore wind in the most recent renewables auction round. Renewables are a cheaper technology to build and operate than new gas-fired power stations.
Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. NESO's Clean Power 2030 plan relies on unabated gas power stations without a clear plan for their decarbonisation after 2030. The forthcoming hydrogen strategy presents a natural opportunity to set long-term goals for the wider integrated energy system, including hydrogen-fired CCGT generation and long-term salt carbon energy storage at scale. Will that strategy include a quantified pathway with delivery milestones for transitioning dispatchable power dispatchable power capacity, and will NESO be required to incorporate this pathway into its planning?
Well, my honourable friend asked a really, really important question, Mr. Speaker. And if he looks at our 2030 Clean Power Plan, we precisely talk about the importance of low-carbon dispatchable power as a way forward. And I'm really proud of what is happening with our CCS plans, a net zero Teesside, and additionally, as he says, it'll be an important part of our forthcoming hydrogen strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Current global instability from Ukraine to Venezuela has shown the vital importance of having domestic energy security. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that investing in renewables will help both with security and cost, particularly because they are cheaper to build and operate, as well as providing us with that vital energy security in an uncertain world?
My honourable friend is right. The figures that came out from NESO over Christmas showed that we have got extra renewable power in 2025 equivalent to powering 2 million homes. That's 2 million homes which will not be powered by imported gas. And that gives us the price stability that they never had under the previous government. And this fundamental lesson at a time of geopolitical instability is homegrown, clean power is what gives us the certainty we need.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to government figures, output from new solar projects costs around £41 per megawatt hour compared to roughly £114 per megawatt hour of the lifespan cost of new gas power. I know the Secretary of State agrees with me and Renewal UK that clean energy remains the lowest cost of energy, but how do we make sure that the British public agrees with us too?
Well, I think the Honourable Lady just did a good job of highlighting the importance of this, and she gets to the crucial point, Mr. Speaker, which is those parties opposite that reject solar, that reject onshore wind, that reject offshore wind, they are rejecting cheap, clean, homegrown power for the British people. That's what we're in favour of on this side of the House.
Jim Shannon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Minister very much for his answers? Not only is it important to have the cost factor when it comes to looking at the gas-fired power stations, it's also important to ensure that communities have an input into the planning process. Can I ask the Minister, has that been central to the formation of any gas-fired power station policy, and has the Minister had the opportunity to share those thoughts and information with the Northern Ireland Assembly, who wish to look at the possibilities for them in Northern Ireland as well? Thank you.
We obviously have regular discussion with the Northern Ireland Assembly on a range of, and the Executive on a range of issues, Mr. Speaker. Look, on his point about nationally significant projects, of course it's absolutely right that communities have input into these questions. And certainly in the case of homegrown low-carbon power, we also want communities to see the benefit, because by hosting infrastructure, including low-carbon infrastructure, communities are doing a service to the country.
Yes. Shadow Secretary of State, Clerkety.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. This is just nonsense on stilts from the Secretary of State, and we know this because the biggest AI company in the world has said that they will need gas power to succeed in Britain. So if a company wants to build its own gas plant here at no cost to the British taxpayer, the warped green ideology of this Secretary of State, who's obsessed with domestic emissions above everything else, would block them. Those emissions will still exist. That company will start somewhere, just not here in Britain. So does the Secretary of State agree that as a completely mad reason to block the growth we need in Britain?
I don't really understand what the question was really about, but we're in favour of AI, and we're working with our colleagues on AI. But I have to say, I'm glad she got up on this question, because she's been rumbled by the figures I produced, Mr. Speaker, because they came out when she was the Energy Secretary. She goes round saying how much more expensive renewable power is. Actually, the figures that she produced shows that renewable power is cheaper to build and operate than gas-fired power stations. And she used to believe it until she jumped on the latest passing bandwagon, which is suddenly to be a net zero sceptic.
Philip Van Belder.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Energy resilience is one of my top priorities as Energy Minister, and I understand the particular challenge in rural communities which do see more frequent power disruption. We work with industry and with Ofgem to ensure that sufficient investment is made into the rural power networks, but also that support is provided when power cuts do occur. And I also want to pass on my thanks to all those engineers and support staff who work in difficult circumstances to reconnect communities when power failure does occur.
With increased frequency of stormy weather as a result of climate change, the rural communities I know are sadly all too familiar with long periods without power. What is the government doing to ensure older and more vulnerable residents get the support they need during cuts? And will he commit to delivering a strategic plan to improve the resilience of rural power networks?
Minister.
Well, we do review lessons learned after every particular significant power failure, particularly after storms. So there was a significant review after Storm Arwen in 2022, but we review after every storm to look at whether there are areas we can improve. I meet regularly with the Electricity Networks Association, who do much of the work with the DNOs to make sure on welfare provisions in particular they are provided as quickly and efficiently as possible. There is much more we can do, but one of the fundamental things we have to do is invest in the future of the grid, and that does mean building grid infrastructure and improving existing grid infrastructure, and members across the House have to support that grid infrastructure if they want to see as resilient a grid as possible across the country.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Nazing in my constituency of Harlow is home to many rural businesses, including, as I mentioned before, Recess, the Lee Valley growers. They say to me that actually one of the biggest challenges they face is the considerable increase in cost of energy and also energy security. So can I ask the Minister how he thinks the British Industrial Competitive Scheme can support rural businesses in my constituency of Harlow, in particular the Nazing growers?
Well, I thank my honourable friend and congratulate the businesses in his constituency doing such a good job. We're absolutely determined to bring down the cost for households and businesses across the country. Schemes like the one he mentions are our commitment to doing that, but also, of course, the Chancellor announced in the budget that households right across the country will have £150 coming off their bill as the decisions that we have made as this government to tackle the cost of living crisis, but we're determined to support businesses to do the same. And, of course, the long-term way that we reduce the bills of businesses, of industry and of households right across the country is to remove gas from the system, to deliver that clean power system that helps all of us have energy security and cheaper bills.
Question 5, please.
Mr Speaker, my right honourable friend the Chancellor's decision to take an average £150 of costs off people's energy bills from April is a reflection of this government's commitment to tackle the cost of living crisis. It will make a difference to families across the country and is estimated to reduce by over 1 million the number of those needing to pay more than 10% of their income in energy costs.
Whereas, Mr Speaker, Kens, based in my Campbell and Redruth and Hale constituency, is the largest manufacturer of ground source heat pumps to neighbourhoods and council flats, and I know the Secretary of State and the Chancellor have both visited. This technology delivers low energy bills for family finances, but the sector requires policy certainty and a plan to grow. Now, I know ministers have been very generous with their time to date, but would the Secretary of State meet with me again to discuss how we can provide that certainty and commitment to public funding supporting this technology?
Well, I really enjoyed my visit to Kenza, Mr Speaker. I recommend all members to go. It's a really innovative company. They're leading in heat pump manufacture. And as he will know, we'll shortly be publishing our Warm Homes plan, and that will be really, really important to drive forward heat pump uptake and indeed help companies like Kenza, because there's a massive job story as well as part of this.
Dr Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, socialists do have a habit of taking money from people and then asking them to be grateful for getting some of it back. So could the Secretary of State tell us how much, if one is a taxpayer, how much will the £150 reduction in fees actually cost them back?
Yeah, I'll tell her. We're really proud of the fact that in the budget we raised taxes on the wealthy so we could cut bills for millions of families across this country. And I'm so grateful to her for her question, because this illustrates the difference. This wasn't an easy thing to do. It was a decision made by this government, because for too long this country has been run for the wealthy and powerful by that party opposite. We are changing that, and we're cutting bills for millions of families across Britain.
Welcoming into the dispatch box, Shadow Minister Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This government's promise to cut energy bills by £300 is dead in the water, as bills are now £190 higher than when they took office. Now their big idea is to pull the wool over the eyes of the British public by moving some of the costs of net zero from people's energy bill to their tax bill. So can the Minister answer a very simple question? After their supposed bill cut takes place in April, will the average energy bill be higher or lower than when Labour came to power?
I can tell you the bills are going to be lower, because if you look across, if he just listens, if you look across 2025 compared to 2024, energy bills are lower in real terms than they were in 2024, and the price cap is lower than in 2024, and we will be making that situation better because bills are still too high by taking £150 off bills. And I just want to highlight this point, Mr. Speaker, because they opposed every measure in my right honourable friend the Chancellor's budget. Yet they also say they want the £150 off bills. You can't have both. It's this government that is delivering on the cost of living crisis.
Well, I'm intrigued with. Question 6 has been transferred. It's even got onto the order paper. Why is it so late for a department to suddenly find out it's been transferred? I know it's good practice, and I hope it won't happen again. Steve Yam.
Number 7, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the autumn budget, the Chancellor announced the transfer of the £2.3 billion reserve to members of the British Coal Staff Superannuation Scheme. Almost 40,000 former mine workers and colliery staff received their first bonus increase before Christmas, with an average uplift of £100 a week, or one-off £5,500 lump sum for backdated pensions. That's the difference that this Labour government is making to coalfield communities.
Steve Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, on behalf of many former mine workers in my constituency who have had that pension reserve fund returned, I want to thank the Minister and his colleagues for supporting coalfield communities like mine. He will also be aware of my letter last month asking about the future sharing arrangements for scheme surpluses for both the MPS and BCSSS schemes. I wonder if the Minister could provide some clarity on how the Government intends to proceed to resolve this final outstanding injustice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable friend for the leadership that he's shown on this issue in the House. And I do thank him for his letter of last month. And I can inform him that I'm meeting with the trustees of the Mine Workers Pension Scheme on the 4th of February and of the British Coal Staff Superannuation Scheme on the 18th of February as well. The focus of both of those meetings is how we can deal with this issue of surplus sharing for the future, and I'm keen that this will be resolved as soon as possible.
Peter Lamb.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Government inherited a legacy of huge underinvestment in the grid, which piled up constraint costs and a chaotic system for grid connection, which left crucial projects facing decade-long delays. We're tackling this with a programme of investment and reform, including sweeping change to the grid connections process, which saw NISO last month set out a massive overhaul of the queue, cutting its size by 2/3 and giving priority to the generation projects we need.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I thank the Minister for his response. Despite its rural setting, Crawley's travel-to-work area is actually a larger economy than many of the UK's core cities. Despite this fact, it has been held back over recent years due to a lack of grid capacity at its major connection point with the national grid, resulting in the loss of several major investments under the last government. Could I ask the Minister could look into what could be done to upgrade this connection point and unleash that restrained economic growth?
I think my honourable friend makes a really crucial point, Mr. Speaker, that because there was this terrible backlog where we had something like 5 times as much capacity as was required in the queue and the wrong priorities in the queue, we had massive problems for demand connection too. This very significant reform that we've done, overhauling the queue, something that wasn't done for years and years, will then free up demand projects to connect, and I hope very much that projects in his constituency can benefit.
John Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Access to the grid for new energy suppliers is very patchy across the country, and this leads to an over-concentration of solar farm and battery energy farm applications in unexpected places, such as near the village of Cowfold in my constituency of Horsham. So what action will the Government take to ensure a fair distribution of renewable energy developments?
Well, I do know from my honourable friend that he's had discussions with the honourable member, and it is important that we have those discussions with honourable members. I think one of the important things for this year, one slightly for the train spotters or the energy spotters, Mr. Speaker, is the Strategic Spatial Energy Plan, which is going to set out a pathway for where we need power in the coming years, well beyond 2030. And as part of that, we should be definitely looking at the parts of the country where the right places to put the power that we need.
Law. Question 9, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year to you and to other honourable members. I'm proud that the Labour Government has extended the Warm Homes discount to an extra 2.7 million households, extending that total to around 6 million, unlike the party opposite who opposed that change. This is going to make a vital difference to so many families this winter, including approximately an additional 220,000 households in the South West. That's almost double the number of households that were supported year on year.
No law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I greatly welcome these cuts to bills forthcoming. And notwithstanding those potential improvements, many of my constituents in Roach, for example, live in areas that are not connected to the main gas grid and where the initial outlay associated with implementing renewable technologies can be prohibitively expensive to people. So could the scope of the Warm Homes Plan be extended so that areas rich in geological resources but exposed to fuel poverty, such as Roach, are able to benefit from geothermal heat networks and significantly reduce bills on the back of those cheap renewable sources?
Hear, hear. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know my honourable friend is not just a champion for his own constituency, but a champion for Cornwall as a whole. And in terms of the government's approach, we support the development of geothermal projects, and we particularly recognise that geothermal heat has really good potential as a low-carbon source for heat networks. And obviously, we'll be publishing the Warm Homes Plan soon, and we'll have more to say about that in the Warm Homes Plan.
Joshua Reynolds.
Mr. Speaker, Citizens Advice note that the Warm Homes discount has not kept pace with rising energy bills and will struggle to touch the sides for families in energy debt. So will the Minister commit to the Government reviewing whether the £150 Warm Homes discount provides sufficient support for families who really need it right now?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government is absolutely gripped by getting energy bills down, and that's why in April we're taking £150 off the costs of energy for everyone across the country, and why this year we extended the Warm Homes discount to 6 million households, almost doubling that across the country, and will continue to take action to reduce bills for people across our country.
Josh Babrin.
Question number 10, Mr. Speaker.
Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. DESNES works very closely with the MHCLG. Support for councils to deliver net zero includes the local net zero hubs, like the Greater South East Net Zero Hub that covers the Eastbourne constituency, and Great British Energy, enabling councils and communities to build a pipeline of local clean energy projects, bringing growth and attracting commercial investment.
Josh Babrin.
Mr. Speaker, and to the Minister too. Eastbournians without driveways like Lauren on Winchcombe Road are committed to getting an electric vehicle to reduce their emissions, but they're being let down by Conservative-run East Sussex County Council that has failed to invest in pavement gullies to allow safe electric vehicle charging cross-street. So will the Minister urge East Sussex County Council and her colleagues at MHCLG to do so, to follow the lead of Lib Dem-run Oxfordshire Council and pilot a cross-pavement electric vehicle charging scheme?
Minister.
Well, I thank you for your question. Local councils do play an absolutely pivotal role. I work very closely with the local Net Zero Delivery Group and UK 100, and I've been very fortunate to visit Leeds and Sheffield Labour-run councils to see the excellent local work they have been doing to support net zero. I think he raises an excellent point on ensuring that councils support local people to deliver on what they want to do and have the EV infrastructure, and I think it sounds like there's some good leadership opportunities to learn from other councils.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a Happy New Year. In addition to those mentioned by the Minister, I hope she'll join me in commending Bradford Council for its ambitious Climate Action Plan 2025 to 2028, which sets out a pathway to net zero for the Bradford district, with really innovative projects in there, such as the district heat network, the new investment in a low-carbon hydrogen industry, creating fantastic jobs, and a massive conversion of street lighting to LED. So will she agree with me that other councils should learn from places like Bradford in how to get to a pathway to net zero?
Minister.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her excellent question and for her championing of Bradford Council and of her constituency. District heat is a massive opportunity, and I've seen that firsthand for myself in Sheffield and in Leeds, but also, as the Secretary of State was referring to, in Cornwall. They've got some excellent projects. I think it's great to see Bradford Council leading the way. As I mentioned in my earlier question, UK 100 and the councils across the country are really at the cutting edge of leading our transition, and it's great to learn from them.
Thank you, Shanks.
Question number 11, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tackling fuel poverty is a priority for this government. We will publish a new fuel poverty strategy for England to ensure that many more fuel-poor households are protected by 2030, and that will be at the same time as the Warm Homes Plan. We've also expanded the Warm Home discount to nearly 6 million households, adding an approximate 2.7 million additional households to the scheme.
Shanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone deserves a warm and safe place to call home. But for 20% of families in Derby South who live in fuel poverty, this week's cold snap is a nightmare as they struggle to heat their homes. Could the Minister outline what longer-term plans we are taking so that families can see the benefits of having a Labour government so they're not dreading this sort of weather?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for that question. It's a really important question, and it's because of the dither and delay from the party opposite that we saw in their time in government that energy prices are still far too high. No one should have to make the difficult choices that he describes. What this government is doing is we are totally focused on getting the cost of energy down and making life easier for people across the UK. That includes the £150 off the cost of energy from next April, the removal of those costs from bills, and the extension of the Warm Home discount. We're also working with other government departments to improve access to data so that we can properly target support to households, and we will come forward with more proposals.
Don't tell the chance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Charities estimate that more than 6 million households in the UK live in fuel poverty. The Minister, in his answer, didn't even mention the Warm Homes Plan, but he talked about dither and delay. His government has repeatedly postponed publication of the Warm Homes Plan. It's cancelled previous fuel poverty programmes and not replaced them with new insulation programmes. So when will he publish, finally, the Warm Homes Plan? And how many of those 6 million households in fuel poverty will benefit from it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I would say to the honourable lady is that it is worth waiting for the Warm Homes Plan, which is going to be published very soon. And as I said, alongside that will be a fuel poverty plan for England. This will be an ambitious plan. The Chancellor has already announced £15 billion worth of funding for that. And it will be an ambitious plan that we will lay out very soon. And I look forward to having constructive discussions with her about that when it is published.
Pippa Hailing, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year. It's freezing outside, and tragically over 4,000 households in my constituency of South Cambridgeshire are living in fuel poverty, as we have just heard. The government's decision to cut ECO, which was the key mechanism for delivering home insulation and energy efficiency, without any details of what will replace it, risks pushing more families into fuel poverty, and the businesses and supply chains that have been fulfilling ECO contracts for over a decade, left in limbo. We've just heard once again no date for when it will come. So will the Minister or Secretary of State finally confirm when it will be released, so ending the uncertainty for businesses and suffering of households?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Warm Home Plan will be published soon, and I look forward to having those conversations with her about how we roll out the ambitious plans in the Warm Homes Plan. What I would say about ECO is ECO was not successfully targeting those in fuel poverty enough. We were spending far too much on something that wasn't delivering the right results. Instead, what we will have under the Warm Homes Plan is £1.5 billion of additional capital support targeted at low-income people, and that is in addition to things like the Warm Home, the local grants that already exist through local authorities, which are targeting billions of pounds at low-income households. But more than happy to have further conversations with her when the Warm Homes Plan is published.
Charters.
New Year, Mr. Speaker, and question 12, please.
Mr. Speaker, our Clean Energy Mission offers a transformative opportunity to deliver thousands of high-quality jobs and drive prosperity across the country. In Yorkshire and the Humber, we estimate up to 20,000 additional jobs by 2030, and there are opportunities across offshore wind, hydrogen and nuclear, as well as many other areas.
Luke Charters.
Speaker, I'm proud of York College in my constituency, where talented students are mastering apprenticeships that will power our clean energy future. York College is now considering becoming a clean energy technical excellence college under the outstanding leadership of Ken Merry. Would the Minister welcome this and visit it to see how it's leading the way in FE when it comes to preparing for the clean energy jobs of the future?
Well, I congratulate York College for the work that they're doing, and I know from my own constituency in Doncaster, where we're going to get a second UTC specialising in green skills, the importance of this and the excitement of young people about this future. And I think there's an important point here, Mr. Speaker. By turning their back on clean energy, they are turning their back on young people, parties opposite. Because this is the future. This is one of the fastest growing sectors. We want this for Britain, we want it for York, we want it for Doncaster, and we'll make it happen.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sadly, it is not job creation that face many of my constituents, particularly those who work at the Lindsey oil refinery. The Secretary of State is aware that Axiom and others submitted bids that would have continued production at the refinery. Could he undertake to, well, instead we now have a deal with Phillips 66 that transfers the assets but not the business. Could the Secretary of State undertake to come to the House to answer the many, to give a statement to answer the many unanswered questions surrounding this deal?
Well, let me say to him, look, first of all, that what happened at Lindsey, and we should be clear that the responsibility lies with the owner that ran that business into the ground, is tragic for the workers and their families, and I've talked to those workers. He will know that because of the process, and my honourable friend has spoken to him about this, we had the official receiver who looked for the best and most viable bid. There wasn't a viable bid to keep refining going at Lindsey. That's why P66 was chosen, and we are determined to work with them to maximise the number of jobs that it can deliver for the local community.
Christine Jolly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Question number 13.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The transition to clean energy is the greatest opportunity we have for good job creation across all of the country, with 40,000 extra clean energy jobs in Scotland alone. That's why we published the Clean Energy Jobs Plan in October, which sets out how we'll work in partnership with industry and trade unions to deliver these jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the Minister's answer, and those 40,000 jobs are vital, but they are still diminished by the many thousands of jobs in the oil and gas sector. And we're seeing an increasing acceleration of job losses there. And increasingly people are going abroad, creating concern that the skills that we need for the green transition will be lost. So can the Minister tell us what the Government is going to do to create transitional training and job movement within those two sectors?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Government recognises the importance of the North Sea oil and gas industry and the importance of oil and gas for decades to come, but we also recognise that the North Sea is a declining basin, and that's why we published our North Sea Plan, which supports the transition of workers in the North Sea into these clean energy jobs. And that's also why we're investing in our clean industry and bonus as well, which incentivises those businesses who are investing in offshore wind to ensure that those offshore wind jobs are located here in the UK. A fundamental difference between this Labour government and the previous Conservative government that was happy for those jobs to be elsewhere in other countries in Europe.
Total crack.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to creating clean jobs and local wealth, there's no better example in the community wind farm sector in my Nahill and Muir constituency. I welcome what the Government has done to clean up the grid connection queue, but the community-owned wind farm sector in my constituency is still stalled and can't get access to the national grid. Everyone agrees NISO, Ofgem, private companies want to promote community energy, but unless ministers direct the regulators and the grid operators to give priority to community-owned wind farms, that will not happen. I'd like to discuss this with ministers, but also ask them to come and see how community-owned wind farming creates wealth and clean jobs in my area.
An offer you can't refuse, I'm sure, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We do recognise the issues that there have been around grid connections in the past, and actually accelerating grid connections and prioritising grid connections is something on which this government's taken by the scruff of the neck. I'm sure that my honourable friend, the Energy Minister, will be very happy to meet with him, and I think we'll be having a bit of a fight together to see which of us has the opportunity to visit his most beautiful part of the country.
Phyllis Meddy.
Thank you, Harriet. The Contracts for Difference budget is vital for job creation and growth of the marine energy sector, yet the latest round removed the tidal stream ring fence and cut emerging technology funding. Can the Minister explain why these changes were made, and will he meet with me to discuss how marine energy projects like Model Ice and Ynys can get the support they need to succeed?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Tidal stream is important. I want to be clear about that. We are keen to support it, and we are supporting it. The honourable member did mention the importance of the contracts for difference in supporting this. I mentioned previously the clean industry bonus as well, and that's exactly how we're doing that, using the contract for difference policy in order to ensure that through the clean industry bonus those jobs land in the UK.
Ren Lishman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Excellent work by the Labour government just before Christmas in saving 500 jobs in the chemical industry at Grangemouth. That's real Labour Party values in action. But we need to do more. How about investing in, or being really radical, owning a sustainable aviation fuel producing refinery at the site? The infrastructure is there, the need for SAF is there, and my people need jobs.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So can I thank my honourable friend for welcoming that news, and I know it was a really big day for him as well, and his dogged determination to champion his constituents is seen both in his constituency and here in this House. Of course, we are supporting Grangemouth, and the myalgae project, which was announced by the Chancellor in the budget, is exactly along the lines that he mentions. He talks about investment in sustainable aviation fuel. We're seeing many private companies wanting to invest in sustainable aviation fuel in Grangemouth, in Teesside, in Humberside and across the whole of the UK. I'm sure we'll see more such plants in the future.
Now go to topicals. Carla Denny.
Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. Climate change made 20... I beg your pardon. Question one of the topicals festivals. First up.
Mr. Speaker, the affordability crisis is the #1 issue facing families across our country. That's why we've actually taken £150 of costs off bills for all families, and an additional £150 through the Warm Home discount for 6 million households this winter. Thanks to our decisions, last year was a record year for wind and solar power, and we're embarked on the biggest nuclear building programme for half a century. That's what it means to deliver on lower bills, good jobs and energy security.
Carla Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Climate change made 2025 the UK's hottest on record and fueled deadly extreme weather events across the globe. We know that every drop of oil and gas makes those events more likely. So will the Secretary of State confirm how much more new oil and gas could be extracted via the tiebacks that the government has decided to allow despite the new oil and gas ban? And when developers apply for permission for those tiebacks, will they be required to include Scope 3 emissions in their environmental impacts?
I have to say to the honourable lady, we've produced a worldly, and I do find her a little, I wish her Happy New Year, but a bit churlish in that question. We've produced a world-leading plan for the North Sea, which combines the just transition, the just and prosperous transition, with environmental leadership, keeping to our manifesto commitment not to issue new licences to explore new fields. Now, it's absolutely right that we also do tiebacks to ensure that that existing oil and gas fields are kept open for their lifetime. Obviously, the North Sea Transition Authority will consult on the details of how this is going to work, but it's absolutely the right thing to do for jobs and the environment.
Dame Meg Hillier.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Bannister House in my constituency in Honiton was one of the first community energy scheme in Hackney with solar panels on the roof, and it's the UK's largest scheme on social housing. The forthcoming local power plan gives the opportunity for others to follow where Hackney has led. Could he give some detail about the rollout of that so that we all know how we can prepare to bid for it?
Well, I congratulate Hackney Council, Labour-led Hackney Council, on the brilliant job it is doing in relation to green energy. Unlike some who just talk about it, they're actually delivering on it, and I congratulate them for it. Absolutely, I see Hackney as being at the forefront of our local power plan, which will be coming out in the coming months.
So the Secretary of State, Claire Coutinho.
It's freezing cold outside, and people are worried about their energy bills. Yet on top of all the other costs he's lumped on people's bills, it's reported that he's about to tax people with gas boilers to pay for people with heat pumps. So can he definitively rule out for the rest of this Parliament no new taxes on people heating their homes.
I can absolutely rule out that we're going to introduce new levies into the energy system in the Warm Homes Plan. Absolutely. These reports are complete nonsense. And I can tell her what we are going to do in the Warm Homes Plan, and that is to turn the page on a decade of their failure. Because we're going to invest where they didn't. We have a plan where they didn't. We'll have proper oversight and regulation where they didn't. And we will tackle the cost of living crisis they caused.
Secretary of State, we're on topicals. I know you want to get carried away, but please, New Year doesn't allow for it.
Mr. Speaker, the rumours are he's pitching himself to be the next Chancellor. He didn't rule out taxes on people heating their homes for this Parliament. He's shutting down the North Sea, a disastrous EU energy deal, a secret deal with China, industry fleeing in its droves. Energy bills have risen 5 times on his watch. Doesn't this show he's got to be the only person in the country that could do a worse job than the current Chancellor?
Dear, oh dear. What can I say to that, Mr. Speaker? I mean, look, I'll say nothing. Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. Look, I do want to make one point briefly. That we will be investing in the Warm Homes Plan, which will come soon, 15 billion of public investment to help people cut their bills. Now, they can oppose it if they like, but I think this will be supported across the country because they were an absolute failure on energy efficiency and all of that, and we're going to succeed.
Loughborough.
2021, energy network firms have pocketed £4 billion in excess profits under the previous price control regime set under the previous government known as RIIO-2, costs borne by all of our households through inflated energy bills. With Ofgem's new price control regime, RIIO-3, now published, can the Minister confirm that robust safeguards are in place to both secure the vital investment but also protect from profiteering and deliver value for money for bill payers?
Minister.
Well, network companies have benefited in the past, but Ofgem has moved to correct this in the RIIO-3 price control period so that this cannot happen again. And we are working with Ofgem every single day to make sure that we bear down on the costs of energy and that consumers in this country benefit from cheaper bills as quickly as possible.
Pippa Hailing, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Speaker, Brexit came at a huge cost, excluding us from the EU's internal energy market, costing the UK £350 million annually. So would the Secretary of State confirm to us how we'll accelerate progress towards the UK-EU internal electricity trading agreement to bring down costs and energy security in these volatile times?
Well, look, I think the Honourable Lady makes an important point, which is that we need to make sure that we take advantage of cooperating with our European neighbours. And one of the ways that we can do that is in the internal electricity market. And we will be negotiating on that basis. We obviously have to look at the costs and benefits for the UK, but anything we can do to lower costs, lower bills, and cooperate with our European neighbours for our advantage is what we should be doing.
Michelle Strockham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Without energy security, projects like Team Barrow and the regeneration of Barrow Furnace widely would be impossible to deliver. Does the Minister agree that large-scale proposals such as the Mesh Energy Storage and Decarbonisation Hub in the Irish Sea can play an important role in delivering the Government's Clean Power 2030 ambitions, strengthening energy security and creating skilled jobs? And will he meet Energy Pathways to discuss this project further?
So stay.
Well, it sounds like a really interesting project, Mr. Speaker, and my honourable friend is absolutely right about this. There are huge opportunities. Opportunities abound when it comes to cooperation with our global neighbours, our near neighbours, and cooperation across the world, indeed, to help our energy security, help deliver clean power and bring down bills.
Vicky Slade.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents welcome the £150 saving energy bills, particularly as it's now snowing. But Andrew from Arrow Energy Solutions is worried. 35% of his heat pump and solar installations were through ECO, and although he says it needed reform, he's worried about what comes next. I welcome the Warm Homes plans coming, but what can you say to Andrew and H2 Eco, another wonderful company, about the risk to jobs in that sector as we transition?
So state.
Well, look, the Honourable Lady asked an important question, and as part of the Warm Homes plan, we're putting in an additional £1.5 billion of public investment, replacing the ECO scheme, which I'm afraid was a failed scheme in a number of different ways, no disrespect to some of the installers. And that will be designed to help bridge the transition for companies like the one that Andrew runs.
Sonia Kumar.
Thank
you, Mr Speaker, and I'm proud that Dudley is home to a Brockmore Energy and Environmental Scheme. That's the first net zero neighbourhood funded by the Richard Parker, the West Midlands Mayor. Will my right honourable friend set out what further measures he's taking to improve energy efficiency, retrofit homes, upgrade energy infrastructure in Dudley, and whether he agrees this scheme should be expanded?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My honourable friend is right to highlight the work of the Brockmore Energy and Environmental Scheme, and I met recently with Richard Parker and hope to come and see some of these projects myself in the future. We'll soon publish the Warm Homes Plan. That will set out further plans to support projects like this, but we've already allocated £1.8 billion to local authorities and social housing providers through the Warm Homes Local Grant and the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund.
Peter Bedford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since the government came to office, the average household energy bill has increased by £200. So the government's claim to be cutting bills by £150 rings somewhat hollow in my constituents. Now, will the Secretary of State commit to reviewing the green levies and taxes that continue to drive up energy prices for hard-working families?
Well, he's wrong if he listened to my answer earlier, because actually bills across 2025 were lower than 2024, and he should be welcoming our measures to cut bills by £150, but I'm afraid his front bench don't support us.
Alex Mayer. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. AW Group in my constituency has got 2 wind turbines and a solar array, which is creating what I think is Great Bedfordshire energy. But currently it gets muddled in with all the other energy in the area, and the company cannot have their own local tariff. Would the Minister consider community energy projects being able to sell direct to local consumers?
Well, this is exactly the work that we're looking at as part of the local power plan. We are determined, as my honourable friend rightly points out, to unlock much more community-owned energy and to make it as easy as possible for communities to connect to the grid and to deliver not just the clean energy that these projects bring, but the real social and economic benefits for communities too. And we'll publish the local power plan very soon.
Ollie Glover.
Mr Speaker, Space Solar, based on Harwell campus in my Oxfordshire constituency of Didcot and Wantage, plans to deliver commercial space-based solar energy by 2032. Given what we've heard today about the government's commitment to AI growth zones and the very high cost of industrial electricity, does the Secretary of State recognise the potential of space-based solar, and will he support British excellence and leadership in this emerging field?
Well, we're genuinely excited about any new technologies that come forward. So innovation like that, of course, we're very interested in. We need a real mix of technologies to achieve our targets. So I'm very happy to find out more about it. And I'm trying to work out whether I can somehow work in a visit to somewhere in space to see these projects in practice.
Rachel Maskell.
Mr Speaker, we're really excited about the University of York's work in developing deep geothermal heat and believe that greater cost efficiencies can be achieved through sequencing projects, especially with hiring the drilling rig and equipment. So can the Minister say how he is driving efficiencies in deep geothermal so it's more viable for future developments like York Central?
Minister.
Well, I was really delighted to meet my honourable friend recently to talk about this exciting project in York and the wider developments that go alongside it. We do see the huge potential from geothermal and rightly, as she says, about how we structure these projects to get them forward as quickly as possible. My honourable friend, Lord Whitehead in the House of Lords, is taking this forward with a particular focus on geothermal, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to meet with her.
Market will have gone. Sir Olney.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. We owe it to future generations not just to have good environmental principles but to act on them, and that's why I will be voting against the third runway at Heathrow. Not my words, Mr Speaker, but the words of the Secretary of State in 2018. Given that Heathrow is already the biggest single source of carbon emissions in the UK and expansion will add an extra 8 to 9 megatons of CO2 to our atmosphere, can he confirm it is still his intention to vote against any expansion of the third runway at Heathrow?
The Secretary of State regularly meets with Cabinet colleagues about these issues. On Heathrow, this government is absolutely clear that any expansion must be compatible with our legally binding carbon budgets and net zero. We are committed to ensuring the economic benefits of airport expansions are delivered in line with our environmental and climate objectives.
Ms. Webb.
Blackpool and the Fowl College have some excellent courses that are training young people in the area on the vital renewable energy equipment that we need to go forward. But there's no jobs for them locally. So will the Secretary of State agree to meet with me to discuss how we can get that job creation? And he's welcome any time to a sunny and a bit chilly Blackpool to come and see those students and the excellent work they're doing.
Same state.
Well, my honourable friend is a brilliant advocate for his constituency, indeed for Blackpool, and I'd be very happy to meet with him and talk about how we can make sure that those jobs that those young people want to have can come to Blackpool.
Dr. Lucas.
If you're in Hinckley and Burbage, you can look one way and see lots of rooftops of logistics because we're the heart of the logistics sector. Looking the other way at Barlston and Nailston, you see agricultural land that's turned into solar farms. So my constituents rightfully say, why can't we have more solar panels on commercial properties? What's the government doing and conversations it's having with MHCLG to make sure this is a possibility?
Minister.
Well, the honourable gentleman is right. We should have many more solar panels on rooftops. We agree with them on that. I met with the UK Warehousing Association recently to look at some of the technical difficulties around ownership and around insurance. We want to do whatever we can to unlock the potential. We've got rooftops across the country that can play a huge part in helping us achieve our clean power mission.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once the political situation is stabilised in Venezuela, once foreign companies can be enticed to invest somewhere between 100 and £200 billion, it will take emergency repairs, workforce modernisation and retraining and many more things to get that infrastructure and industry in Venezuela up to historical peak capacity. It could take up to 2040. Is it not easier and speedier for the UK to invest in homegrown renewable and nuclear to guarantee energy independence and get off the fossil fuel roller coaster, but also deepen our...
Please, it's topicals.
Yes, my honourable friend is entirely right. Homegrown clean power is what is going to give us energy security.
Helen Maguire.
Mr. Speaker, an estimated 50,000 diesel-powered transport refrigeration units operate across the UK, consuming around 235 million litres of fuel annually. Compared with emissions from truck exhaust, these generators emit up to 400 times the particle number. High-emitting diesel engines face no real regulation and create a significant burden on the NHS and the environment. But there is a solution. Zero-emission renewable transport refrigeration technology is commercially available and being manufactured in the UK today. Government intervention would help this. So will the Secretary of State come and see the fantastic work of SunSwap, who are championing this technology in my constituency? And can he...
Order, please. If you've got to do topicals, then that is definitely not topical. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having slightly strayed into the area of the Department for Education earlier, I think it best that I stay out of the area of the Department for Transport. I will, however, ensure that that question is passed on to the relevant ministers for a response.
Dr. Becky Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My hometown of Worthing is already delivering a major heat network, but is not yet designated as a heat network zone. Could the Minister please consider this designation at the earliest possible opportunity and ensure that grid capacity supports early designation for advanced schemes?
Yeah. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Heat networks are crucial to future decarbonisation. I'd be more than happy to meet with her to discuss that in detail.
Iqbal Mohammed.
Mr. Speaker, Positive Energy is a better supplier to businesses in my constituency of Dewsbury and Backley. It has provided inaccurate contracts and bills to customers trying to bill them for premises they do not occupy. It has disconnected electricity supplies to customers without notice and fraudulently sent electricity bills for the meter they disconnected. And now Positive Electric is demanding payment of the standing charge for a meter. Will the Secretary of State investigate these rogue suppliers and advise how we will protect...
Put the question on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the member has details and sends them to me, I'm more than happy to look into that. This would be a matter for Ofgem, but there's also recourse available through the Energy Ombudsman.
Alistair Strathern.
I'm delighted we're investing in more rooftop solar, with GB Energy supporting deployment on schools and hospitals in my constituency, and the government taking up my requirement to have it on all new housing. But how can we make sure that from car parks to commercial warehouses, we're not missing out on the opportunities that these rooftops could pose to?
Minister.
My honourable friend's absolutely right. Look, we need a mix of technologies to achieve our clean power targets, and rooftops are an obvious place to do that. And I think there's actually broad consensus, even from those who disagree with other things, around how much we can utilise rooftops. So schools and hospitals, GBE's invested to bring down the bills of those public institutions, but we want to see much more of it on car parks and warehouses everywhere we possibly can.
Caroline Bowden.
Speaker, and a Happy New Year to you. This weekend, 4,600 properties in my constituency had their gas supply cut off on the coldest weekend of the year. Now, I'd like to commend Wales and West Utilities, who have worked tirelessly to get people reconnected, but their efforts have been hampered by the inability to communicate
effectively with residents, as they don't have a direct relationship with their customers, and they've had to rely on social media, which is not great in an area with lots of elderly people. We've also been hampered by the high number of second homes, and engineers have not been able to gain access to those properties. So would the Minister meet with me to discuss how providers such as Wales and West Utilities can communicate with households?
I think the Minister will have got the answer, Red.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Lady, and can I thank for engaging with me over the weekend on this issue? And I'm genuinely sorry there are still so many customers that aren't connected. The engineers are doing a fantastic job, but she rightly says the challenge is they can't reconnect until households are present to disconnect, and that is causing really significant problems. But they are doing everything they can. I'm very happy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bracknell Forest Council have submitted a bid to the Heat Network Delivery Unit for a feasibility study into a district heat network to stretch across our town centre. Would my honourable friend agree that schemes like this support local businesses and residents to cut emissions and cut bills?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member will have heard me say earlier how important heat networks are to decarbonisation. I'm more than happy to meet with them to discuss that, and they play such an important role in the future of providing energy across our country.
Lee Anderson.
Speaker, in November last year, the Energy Secretary and his entourage attended COP30 in Brazil. This was an event where a rainforest was chopped down so the Energy Secretary could talk about saving rainforests. Does he understand the hypocrisy of it all?
I don't understand the honourable gentleman, if I'm honest. I mean, look, basically, the truth is he would give up on young people. He would sell them down the river. He'd sell down the river today's generations, future generations, and all the generations to come. I don't think that's a very good platform to stand on.
Tim Farron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 25% of the houses in my constituency are built before 1900. They are expensive to heat, they are very difficult to insulate. When will there be a bespoke plan to insulate those properties with the right materials and, crucially, installed by specialists?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've had very constructive conversations with the member about this, and the Warm Homes Plan will be published soon, and we'll have something to say in that. Thank you.
Andrew Lewin.
Mr. Speaker, Happy New Year to you and your team. It was a happy start to the new year because we learned that in 2025 more renewable energy was generated in this country than any time on record, driven in particular by the growth in solar. So would my right honourable friend give me his New Year's resolution that this government is going to continue to drive forward and to surpass that target in 2026?
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. This is about delivering on what we promised, on what we were elected, homegrown clean power to get bills down, create jobs, give us energy security, and crucially, do the right thing for future generations.
Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Almost a year ago, the Housing and Planning Minister and I had a really wonderful discussion about my Sunshine Bill, which would see all new homes, including solar panels on the roof. I understand the government is on the cusp of making an announcement about this. Can we be reassured that this is the year when we're finally going to force all of the developers to make us have nice green energy on our roofs? Thank you.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. I enjoyed being part of his sunshine debate. I've been very excited to work very closely with the Minister of State for Housing, who is with us this morning, and we look forward to that future home standards coming soon, very shortly.
Final question, Aaron Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Southampton is Europe's leading cruise port. It's the second biggest container terminal in the country, and our industry stands ready to invest millions in decarbonisation, but they are being held up by the grid constraints at the Nursling supply point. So will the Minister meet with me and local industry leaders to see how we can unlock the very obvious environmental and economic benefits that this would bring?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, our team will be happy to meet with him, and I think what this shows, and so many other questions, is the huge opportunities we have from homegrown clean power, including in fantastic Southampton.
Point forward to Bradley Thomas. It is on the question. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to my question asking whether bills in April 2026 will be lower than in July 2024, the Secretary of State claimed that they would be. However, the price cap would suggest otherwise. It was £1,568 in July 2024. It's projected to be £1,620 in April 26. Can you advise on how this House can seek a correction of the record?
Look, we're not going to continue the debate, but what I would say is you've certainly put it on the order paper unless the Minister wants to respond, which I don't think does. Secretary of State does, though.
Peter, I'm happy to respond, because we're going to be dealing the facts, Mr. Speaker, which is that bills were lower in 2025 than in 2024 in real terms, and the price cap was lower. And of course, making a seasonal comparison makes no sense. So absolutely, we're going to trade in the facts.
Sarah Alday, point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I asked the Secretary of State a direct question about his former statements and how they conflict with current government policy. Would you agree with me, Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State should have directly answered me?
I don't have an opinion. I'm not responsible. But I've certainly would say that you've got it on the record. Right, let us move on. Take care. Okay. From good to see you, Mark.
Thank you so much. You can see the man of space today. So.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.